For this concert, I am only using 4 performers, one of which will be myself. The other 3 people are the bassist, Ratzo Harris, who will also play a little bit of cello, a multi-reed player, James Stewart, who resides in New Jersey, but he's been quite active on the New York scene as a tenor saxophone player, but he also plays bass clarinet and flute and all the other reed doublers. And also a fantastic pianist named Sonelius Smith, who is quite active as a performer, and he teaches all over New York. He's a wonderful teacher. He taught one of my daughters also. But those 3 people are very accomplished improvisers as well as readers. So, and it'll be a lot of expression of improvised emotions, I guess we should say. I'm not going to tell these musicians on a particular instance exactly what to play, but I will frame out a structure for them to interact in. And there will also be some spoken word. Poetry and writings that I have done myself over the years will be included in this performance. These musicians that I'm working with on the 20th, as I said before, are master improvisers first of all, and they all have been experienced in all kinds of recordings, you know, all kinds of different genres of recording. Everybody probably is aware of the controversial issues, particularly concerning police and unarmed young black men, which is basically the theme that is going to be pervasive underneath this piece that I'm doing with these 3 gentlemen. Sonelius Smith, James Stewart, and Ratzo Harris. But I have, every time there's been something that has upset me politically, I usually write down, sometimes it comes in poetry, sometimes it comes in a statement, or sometimes just an exclamation of anger. And I've taken 4 or 5 of these selections to interject inside of this composition around some of the music. I call this theme that I'm working on, not this particular piece, but the overall theme that I'm working on is what I call Re-Reconstruction. There was a period in the late 1800s in this country called Reconstruction, where after slavery had ended, a lot of white people tried to reimpose another form of slavery. It was called Jim Crow, it was called all kinds of other things. But what they did was to super surveil any black politician during those times, and there were quite a few. There were senators and congressmen all over the place, and they just kept on criticizing and imposing all kinds of unusual standards on them that eventually led to their being voted out of office, or just being, in some cases, run out of town. And I'm seeing this now that we have a supposedly post-racial society and a quote-unquote black president, that this same kind of thing seems to be happening. So I call it Re-Reconstruction. And that'll be the theme that I'm going to address within this particular concert. Well, I came to New York in 1957. I had just received a bachelor's degree from University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. I got my teaching degree there, and then I came here and got a master's degree in percussion from the university, from Manhattan School of Music, which then was located on the east side of New York on 105th Street and between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. The building is still there, but of course, when the Juilliard School moved down to their Lincoln Center facility, Manhattan School of Music moved into the old Juilliard facility on 120th and Broadway. In those days, the 52nd Street scene was still going on, and there was an awful lot of activity. You could walk up and down 52nd Street and go to 2 or 3 clubs in a night and always see spectacular performers. So I was able to see a little bit of that. And in the 60s, I got a studio to rehearse myself, Jack Jeffers, who's still here, and the composer, conductor Coleridge Taylor Perkinson. We shared the studio. And a few years after that, I moved to 21st Street to a loft studio. And of course, it was the beginning of the whole loft scene, which lasted for about, maybe 30 years, you know. And I was interacting with people like Sam Rivers and just an innumerable bunch of people. Sam had one of the big studios. Jolie Wilson had a studio. But a lot of our musical activities were interacted in between these places where we could rehearse and perform. And we attracted quite a lot of people during those years. The Composers Workshop Ensemble was started, early 1960s. And it was just a bunch of us that got together periodically, and we decided that we weren't playing the kind of music that we wanted to play. So we started copying some arrangements of different songs that we liked. And this evolved into us starting to bring in original musics. Jack Jeffers, Coleridge Perkinson, and myself were three of the original members. And Jack and I, you know, beyond this 55 years, have worked together ever since then. Some of my associations, I had always admired Gil Evans' music, and they led me into rehearsing and performing with the Gil over a period of maybe the last 20 years or so that not the last 20 years, but maybe 15 out of the last 20 or 30 years that he performed. And I worked with him an awful lot during those years, and that was a big thrill. That was one of my great ambitions coming to New York to be able to do. I worked at Birdland one night a week with the Ellington Band for 7 years. You know, the only thing that could have made that dream better would have been if Ellington himself had been alive to conduct it. But the band was conducted either by Mercer Ellington or by Mercer's son, Paul Mercer Ellington, most of the time that I was there. But still, you're playing Ellington's music every night the way that he would have wanted you to play it. You know, so that was a wonderful asset to have in my repertoire. Sam Rivers had an album. I did his one big band album called Crystals, I think it was. And he also did a set of albums called the Tuba Trio, where he used Joe Daly as the tubist, and I played multiple percussion, drums, vibraphone, all kinds of other stuff. And Sam played everything from piano to flute to soprano to tenor, you know, just being Sam Rivers, genius that he was. I did a couple of recordings, one of which has just been released by Joe Daly. And at one point, Joe, at my suggestion, wrote a concerto for percussion for me. And it features 5 movements, the first of which I played marimba, the second I played vibraphone, I played timpani, and then I played one with just gongs, and then I played one with the drum set. I did David S. Ware's last 2 recordings, the very last 2, and on that last one I played timpani also, just me and William Parker. And William played the duzengoni, and I think he might have played the cello as well as the bass, but he and I both, you know, did a lot of multiple instrumentation behind David's music. And I've got 3 or 4 out with the Composers Workshop Ensemble. 2 of them I produced myself, and 2 of them were done with Strata East. One was done on a Japanese label called Bay State. That hasn't been actually released in this country, but they have it in Japan. So those are maybe surface scratches of some of the stuff that I've done, you know, but when I tried to count up the amount of recording that I did, and I was by no means one of the busiest recording musicians, but over that 50 years I must have done I know it's been probably about 3,500 different record sessions with various people, you know. And then intermittently, I'm always, you know, doing different projects. Now, people call me up when there's something that they couldn't think of anybody else that could do it, or something that they needed an instrument that I did that not too many other people did, has kept me still fairly busy, you know, even at this stage of my life. You know, I'm 80 now, and you know, I'm afraid if I slow down, I won't be able to do it anymore. So I won't slow down.